So when it comes to the fruit and vegetables, I don't mind if someone's a vegan, a vegetarian or a meat eater, because at the end of the day, we all need to be eating predominantly vegetables, because that's where we're getting our vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients and fibre from. When it comes to fruits, we need to be a little bit more careful, and that's because of the sugar they contain. And different fruits contain different sugars, which have a different effect on our blood sugar level. There's a type of sugar called xylose, which has quite a negligible effect. And just to demonstrate this, you could actually have 600 grams of berries, and that would be equivalent to the sugar in 10 grapes, all sultanas, half a banana, and just one date. So berries tick all the boxes because they're so brightly coloured with their purples and reds and blacks. It means they're packed full of antioxidants and they still taste sweet and delicious. Now, if you've got a sit-down job, you certainly don't want to be snacking on grapes and bananas all day. So the other fruits that are really good to go for are things like apples, pears, oranges, melons, cherries, plums. Generally, most of the fruits that grow in this country, that's kind of a good little kind of reference point really. So it's the tropical fruits that tend to cause more of a problem. Now this is why you need to be careful with a lot of the commercial mueslis, because they tend to pack them full of sultanas and dates, and actually a lot of cereal bars as well, and especially cereal bars that have got healthy stamped on them or no added sugar. The sugars quite often come from your sultanas and from your dates. Now, bananas are really good at sorting out your blood sugar levels. So if you ever do have a drop for any reason, banana is the best thing to go for. And it will really give you a clear idea of how quickly that sugar goes into your bloodstream. Now, nobody wants half a banana hanging around, so I'd kind of suggest maybe getting the small kiddie sized bananas. And the good time to have it is maybe just before or just after exercise, when you are looking for that quick lift in energy, but just try and avoid it as your daily go-to fruit. Use some of the others that I mentioned. And I would say actually try not to have more than 2 or 3 portions of fruit a day. So you don't need to overdo your fruit. And fruit's generally best on an empty stomach. So it's really good for snacks, really good for breakfast. Don't have it as a pudding straight after a big heavy meal, because then it will sit in the stomach and ferment and make you feel uncomfortable. So just have it a bit later on as a supper. And then when it comes to other sugars, these are the ones that I would recommend maybe having a look at. So coconut sugar is a nice granular sugar. It looks a little bit like a brown sugar, but it tastes a lot less sweet than normal sugar. These are still sugars, you still need to treat them with respect, but in my opinion they're just slightly better. So the coconut sugar is a good one for baking with. Agave and maple are great just from the point of view that they're a very, very thin syrup, so they're really easy just to kind of drizzle on the top of some natural yogurt or on your porridge, and not to overdo the quantity. Now, I know a lot of people like to use honey, and honey is an amazing food, but it's just so full of sugar that it actually doesn't need to have a shelf life. It would last forever. So I would say with honey, really try and look for a fresh local one that hasn't been processed, but keep it in your cupboard more for therapeutic use, so for coughs and colds, or if it is just occasional, that's fine. But if you're using honey as a daily sweetener, then maybe try one of these others instead. When it comes to the vegetables, my rough rule of thumb are all the ones that grow above ground are the ones that you can have in unlimited quantities. And that's because they're getting their energy every day from the sunlight. Whereas the ones that grow below ground have to store their energy, and they store it as starch, which of course converts to sugars. So the great news is we have such a variety. It's all your dark green leafy veg, all your salad vegetables, your broccoli, your cauliflower, your courgettes. I mean, there's so many. Just go for plenty of colour, because it's in the colour that it gives us some protective mechanism. So for instance, the lycopene in the tomato is really useful against prostate cancer. The green and the broccoli is really good against certain cancers. So where you've got a choice, so for instance with cabbage, go for the dark Savoy cabbage instead of the white cabbage, or go for the red onion instead of the white onion. So just explore different ways of getting that colour in. So remember, above ground vegetables and the dark green leafy veg are the king of the vegetables. So they're the ones that are really high in nutrients, particularly iron, but all of the minerals really. And they're very detoxifying, they're very alkalizing. And we're so lucky in this country in particular that we have so many wonderful dark green leafy veg, especially going into the winter. So try and have a portion of green leafy veg every day. In the summer it might mean more of the salad things, so things like watercress or rocket. If you've got a tiny patch of garden, then great things to grow are perpetual spinach and chard, and then you've always got fresh leaves. Now the other really good source of nutrients you get are in sea vegetables. So that's things like arami and dulse and kelp. The sea vegetables are very rich in nutrients like iodine, which is actually very hard for us to get into the diet. So you can get packs where they're just dried, and if you just put a handful into some soups or into some stews, you probably wouldn't even really notice it was there, but it's just a good way of getting those extra nutrients in. Now when it comes to the below ground vegetables, they're the ones that would make up a quarter of your plate. So either the root vegetables, or remember we were talking about the grains. So that would be things like your potatoes, your carrots, your beetroot, your parsnips, your turnips. A really good replacement for things like potatoes is butternut squash, because the squashes are really low in starch, but they hold their shape quite well, so they're great for roasting, they're great in soups, and of course because they've got the colour, they've got some beta carotene in. Now the sweet potatoes aren't the brilliant substitute for normal potatoes we used to think they were, but they still are much better nutritionally because they've got more fibre, and again they've got the beta carotene. Now, that said, I'm a really big fan of a fresh, local, seasonal diet. So I would rather in the winter see a quarter of a plate of roasted root vegetables than a pile of pasta or a pile of rice, which in my opinion has got very little nutritional value. Now, if you want to live a really good, long, healthy life, then the secret is no secret really. It's having as many vegetables as possible. Now with the best will in the world, there is only so much salad and steamed veg that you can munch on. So another good way to get more veggies in the diet is with juicing and with green smoothies. So I just wanted to mention that if you are juicing, you really need to keep the ratio kind of 3/4 veggies, preferably veggies above ground, to 1/4 fruit. So the fruit's in there just to kind of take the edge off of it, but you've almost got to think of it as a therapeutic vitamin and mineral shot. If you're ever out and you have a juice and you think, my goodness, this tastes so delicious, chances are there's too much fruit in it. So just be careful with that. And then with the smoothies, because you have the fibre with the fruit, you can go a bit more 50-50. So I would really say that a little blender is a great investment, because the great thing about doing a green smoothie is that you can use it as a vehicle to load lots of other nutrients in. So maybe add some fats and proteins to it, so things like avocado or nut butters or some coconut butter, and really make it into a meal replacement if you want to.